Hello there, and welcome. Well, we've come to the last month of this project, and I think I should warn you on this episode that my mother's cat, Cleo, might come in and try to discuss something with us in the midst of it. She's begun to have this habit of doing that. I'm not sure why, but that's what she's begun to do. So she may come in, she may not, we'll see. I'm going to discuss now something that John and I wouldn't necessarily have discussed, because there is one area of teaching where I had more expertise than John. Only one. Just one. And that was in leading adult classes. Now, when I say adult classes, I mean college as well as adults in the general population classes. And classes where students were older, more experienced, more mature than I was or am. Although that's getting rarer and rarer. More and more, they're either peers or younger people. But when I started out working with adults, I was fairly young. And when I first taught a college class, I was in my 20s, and in my first college class, I had several students who were over 30. So I've had more experience with that, with teaching adults and working with adults in a learning situation. And so these last few little bits of suggestions that I'm going to give for making class easier are really aimed at working with adults. Or adults, depending upon how you want to pronounce it. So my first suggestion is going to be what I call the left field question. With adults, you do not have to worry as much about lesson design. You don't have to worry as much about intense planning and motivation, because adults don't have to be there. They can choose to be there. And this is true even for college students. So the relationship is less intense because teenagers are, by their very stage and nature, intense. And they also meet with you every day, 5 days a week, generally speaking. Whereas college students do not. They may meet with you 3 days a week, or as few times as 1 day a week. And so for that reason, the relationship is less intense, but it's also less combative. If a student doesn't like you as a teacher, that student does not have to attend. And so the whole idea of teacher affection becomes less and less relevant, and it's really about the material. It's really about what you're working on that matters. And I think that's encouraging in a way. But that also presents a new problem. Whereas if I brought forward a book to the kids, say The Great Gatsby, that book is incredibly famous. But for those young people, for juniors, which is typically where you read American literature in the American high school, that book is a new experience. Whereas for mature readers, almost any of the classics that you might bring up are not new experiences. And so the challenge is to get them to engage with the material in a way that is entirely fresh. And part of how you do that is by presenting a sort of sidelong glance at the material, by asking a question from way off topic. So when you're entering teaching a subject that everybody knows, let's say the Bible, right? If all your students have read the Bible and you're going to be teaching adults about the Bible, how do you make that study engaging? Well, part of how you do it is by entering through a contemporary question. So I'm going to present you with my most recent left field question that I presented my Bible students. And then on our next episode, I'll talk about how that worked. When we think about these left field questions, you have to be prepared for them to either float or fail. And both of those are perfectly fine. Because the material, since the material is really what you're there for, part of what you're doing is providing a sort of opening of the palette so that everybody can enter into the frame of discussing the material and studying the material in a way that's pleasant and enlightening. So, here's the question I asked, and you can try to guess what lesson I was teaching when this left field question came up. I asked them, have any of you ever had a massage? That's the question. Now, tomorrow, or next episode, I will tell you the answer to the question, the answers I got, and what that question led into. Short episode today. I hope you have a delightful rest of the day, and I hope you see me again. You gorgeous people.